So I work for a massive corporation, just insanely huge, and there's some advantages to working for a big company. You get a few little perks. Number one, they've already been down the road of how they support disabled people, and I have a disability. I'm legally blind, so that's all been worked out. It was worked out a decade ago before I ever got there. Really nice thing. There's also at the place I work, I'm not going to name it, don't necessarily dictate to you what kind of computer you should have to do your job. I don't know if they do it to other people, but in the development department, you can pick a Windows machine, Linux machine, or a Mac. And when I first got there, everybody went with Linux machines because that's what we were. We all already had Linux desktops, so they gave us Linux laptops, and that's what we used to do our development. And a couple of people went to Windows, and we can do the development on either one. Recently, since we came there, they started really pushing Macintosh and saying, "Hey, let's if you can do your job with a Mac, then yeah, you can get a Mac." Now, I am no Mac fanboy. All right, I'm not a Microsoft fanboy. I'm not really even a Linux fanboy. I used to be a Linux fanboy, but no more. I've had it with Linux. Like I said, I'm legally blind, and there is one feature that I really like. I like to be able to blow the mouse pointer up just a little bit. When I'm on just a laptop screen, I like blowing it up about a notch, maybe a notch and a half. When I'm on multiple screens, I like it nice and big. Okay, when I'm flopping from screen to screen, and you just get used to it. Because even I have trouble aiming the damn thing. Well, on the Mac, it's a snap. I mean, you just go into the settings, you go to accessibility, and you have a slider bar. And as you're sliding the slider bar, it expands. It's wonderful. Mac also has a bunch of other stuff that really make it nice. They just have a contrast switch. You can say, look, turn the contrast to the whole screen up, and bam, it works. And it's real contrast. The black lines get thicker. The text seems to get bolder. The colors get more rich. I wish they had that on Microsoft. I haven't seen a setting quite like that. They have a thing where they can thicken the lines, and they have a thing where they can thicken the fonts, but they're two separate settings, and they don't look right. I mean, if you mess with the fonts in Windows, it just screws everything up. By the way, you're hearing my cat eat up here. That's what that chomping noise is. And you can probably hear the laundry in the running in the background as well. So in Windows, it's a snap. You can go in, you can set your mouse size. You get up and down, basically. You don't get a nice little slider bar, but it can be done. Piece of cake. And you can pick other mouse pointers. Mac, I don't know if you can pick other mouse pointers. I don't need to. The pointer it came with works great as long as I can blow it up a little bit. Boom, I'm done. I'm happy. Linux. The Linux I use almost exclusively is by a company called Canonical. It's Ubuntu. When I first started using it, the first thing I tried to do was blow up the mouse pointer. And there's no slider bar. There's no settings. You can set everything about the mouse except changing the mouse pointer in any way. You can the sensitivity, all that crap, trails. You can wrap a magnifier just like all the rest of them around the mouse pointer. Little magnifying window. I like using that too. Guess what you can't do? You cannot change the size of the pointer. Not easily. I looked it up online, and there were 10 different descriptions on how to do it, on how to go through spelunk the bowels of the operating system to find the setting. There's no setting. You've got to go in. You've got to change numbers in what is effectively the Linux registry, and then you've got to go into you got to go in and put files in certain places, and you got to dig through Linux. It should be in accessibility options. This was 7, 8 years ago. Okay, and other versions of Linux, they use GNOME or they use KDE. You can change the mouse. It's in the settings, and you just say make it bigger. It makes it bigger. It can be done. Okay. But when I started using Ubuntu, they were getting into Unity, which is their interface, like GNOME or whatever. And it doesn't support it. It just doesn't do it. It never has. So I fought with it and fought with it. Of course, I have to use this for work, basically. And I flip back and forth between using Fedora and or Red Hat and using the canonical product. And it's like, and you can change things in the other versions of Linux, and not the one I like. Everything else about Ubuntu I like better than all the other versions of Linux. It's that one thing. So I got a Mac now. I've always wanted to dig into a Mac. A million years ago, back when they first came out with OS X, I downloaded OS X beta, and I actually borrowed a friend of mine's old Mac that they were using and installed it on their Mac. Was able to get it up and running, at least work, and play with it. And it was neat. And then, so that was 20 years ago. I cannot have been 20 years ago. Must have been more like 15 years ago or something. But anyway, so it's been a long time since I messed with Mac, and I'm like, I'm never going to buy a Mac. If a Mac cost half what they really cost, they would still be too expensive, in my opinion. But I got this Mac through work, and I've sat down and played with it off and on, and it's nice. I really like how it works. I like how it's laid out. I like how you find stuff on it. I like how you get two things. There's still a million things I don't understand, but I like it. Way too expensive. I would never do this on my own. So, a couple weeks ago, I'm reading through Slashdot like I do every 15 minutes in my waking life, and I read that Canonical Ubuntu is doing away with the whole Unity interface. They're going to GNOME. Guess what? Now that I've bailed on Unity, on Ubuntu, basically Canonical, I still use it. I have to in a virtual machine. Nice thing about using it in a virtual machine is it uses my host operating system mouse pointer. So I kind of sideways get it to work. It can be done. Like I say, you just have to dig. You have to dig like crazy into the operating system and swap files. And then as soon as you get it to work, which happened to me, run a system update, boom, it fixes it for you back to stock. So they're going to GNOME like in 2018. So the next version of Ubuntu will still have Unity, but the one after that, I think the first one in 2018, I don't remember. You have to go look it up. But it will run on GNOME, which just has a little thing you go into and you say, I want a new mouse pointer, and you pick a mouse pointer. So I have to say I like GNOME a lot better. Even the new GNOME, the new crazy 4 or whatever it is version of GNOME that they have now, I like it a lot better than Unity. I never really bought into the whole Unity thing. The idea behind Unity and the Microsoft OS interface, the new Windows 10 look, Windows 8, Windows 10 look, was they wanted one interface to fit a phone, a laptop, and a tablet. And I think Microsoft is the first one to figure out that ain't going to work. The Microsoft Surface, I think, that it has it right. I'm not a Microsoft fanboy by any measure, but I'm telling you, I think they nailed it. I think Microsoft got it right with the Surface. You flip the keyboard, it turns in, it gives you the tablet interface. You flip the keyboard back, and it gives you the laptop interface. And that's the way it should be done. And now, hopefully everybody's going to copy it. Now, I've read what the next version of the Mac is going to be like in 2019 or 2018 or whenever the next version of the Mac Pro comes out. It's going to be modular. And it's finally, and somebody suggested it's finally going to have a touchscreen. I'll believe that when it happens. But it sounds a lot like it's going to be a Microsoft Surface running macOS or something very similar to me. Is what it sounds like. And I approve. I'm good. If you're going to copy something that works, please. Anyway, back to my working at home. I think my process is just about to finish anyway. So a bunch of us started asking questions why they haven't started on the construction to do all this. They want to rip all this out and put in a little cafe area where people can sit down. It's a neat idea, but we heard that from multiple sources now that there's not a lot of foundation underneath there. This place was built like 3 separate buildings. So you got this building, that building, and then this middle piece are all on 3 separate foundations that are basically tied together. And some of this dirt doesn't have any foundation underneath it. It just goes down for drainage. There's dirt, there's probably foundation underneath the lights and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I don't know. We're kind of in limbo on when we're going to rip all this out and fix it now, because I think the price just quadrupled. Well, first thing in the morning on the side of the road, check engine light came on. Got a buzzer buzzing like crazy. Oh, here we go. Excellent.